This is the Puck Junk Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. I'm Sal Berry and with me is Tim Parish. And today we are going to do a Setrospective about the 1980-81 Topps and O-Pee-Chee hockey card sets. We're also going to talk about the passing of a couple of hockey legends. Seems like we're getting a lot of that lately, unfortunately. Yeah, that's what's on the docket for today's podcast and video podcast. So, Tim, how are you doing? How are things?
I am as mid as can be.
Mid. So not
up, not down. I'm just right there.
Mid.
Right in the mid.
Yeah.
As the kids say. I started off today pretty good. Like I was feeling good. I was blue sky, sun was shining, birds were chirping. I was heading to work, and then I walked in the office, sat down, I opened my emails, and train derailed from that point forward. So
yeah, once you get into work.
Yeah. That's how it goes in this world of high finance.
What did we say? We didn't back in the day. We didn't say mid. I remember we'd say weak a lot, but we would say weak as a synonym for lame. So I'm trying to think if we had like a term for like something not being great and not being awful. It was just kind of in between. I mean, was it meh or was meh later?
Yeah, all of that seems later to me.
Yeah, meh seems more 2010 and up.
Yeah, that's way after my time.
Yeah.
My time is over. I'm on borrowed time now.
Uh-oh, that's not good. Can you repay with interest?
That's the old fixed ticker that I got. So,
oh.
Yeah.
You can elaborate or no? Because I have no idea what you're talking about.
My heart surgery I had like
I remember your heart surgery. I just didn't ask any of the details.
No, there's nothing new. That's just what I.
Yeah. I see. Okay.
That's my borrowed time.
Did they give you like a mechanical heart, or did they do like a chimpanzee heart transplant or something? Or
they put an armadillo heart in me,
and
then my body rejected that. So now I'm pretty sure I have the heart of a sewer demon. It seems to be working okay.
Wow, crazy stuff. Yeah, no, I'm glad. I guess makes me grateful that my health is relatively good these days. As I journey through life, one day at a time. Before we get, it's all you could do.
You can't live life 2 days at a time. So one day at a time is all you get.
No, I wouldn't want to do that. In fact, I remember like when I was in like 8th grade reading in like my science book that like scientists are looking for a way to like, it was basically to like, instead of us sleeping, we would hibernate. And in that way we wouldn't age for like those 8 hours a day that we would sleep, so that we'd actually gain a third more of our life. And I just thought, whoa, I want this to happen. Then that way I could live, another 33 years or whatever.
Reminds me of the episode of Rick and Morty when they have their night person. Where they're awake during the day, and then when they go to sleep, subconsciously their body wakes up and they can do all the stuff they don't want to do when they're awake, but they stay asleep.
Or kind of like the TV show Severance, where like the people go to work and they don't know what they do at work, and then they leave work and then they just live the rest of their day, and then they go to work the next day, and for those 8 hours they don't know what they do at work, and then their work self doesn't know what they do outside of work.
Funny enough, I don't even live in a TV show, and I don't know what I do most of the time at work. So,
well, anyway, it's been a really rough couple of weeks, and I'm not making light of this, but it's just been a very rough couple of weeks for 1970s goaltenders, because we had the passing of Ken Dryden, and then I feel like a week later, Ed Giacomin passed away. And we didn't podcast last week just due to scheduling difficulties. So I didn't really get a chance to talk about him then. And then recently, Bernie Parent passed away. So right there, we have like three of the best goalies from the 70s who are no longer with us. And then the former head of the National Hockey League Players Association, Bob Goodenow, also passed away. So I mean, a lot of big names in hockey. I know some of you might be like, Bob who? But when we talk about his career, you'll understand why he was so important. Just talking about Bernie Parent, because he passed away most recently among the three. So Bernie was the goalie for the Flyers. Now, he did play on a couple other teams, but he played in the NHL for 13 seasons. He from 1965-66 to 71-72. And then he went to the WHA for a season. And then 73-74 to 78-79, he played again with the Flyers or in the NHL. He also played with Boston. That's where he started his career. And then he also went to Toronto, and then he went to the WHA with the Philadelphia Blazers, and he went back to the Flyers. Now, he won the Stanley Cup, the Conn Smythe Trophy, the Vezina Trophy, and was a first-team NHL All-Star in 74-75. So for 2 years in a row, there was not a better goaltender. I mean, won the Stanley Cup, was the Stanley Cup MVP, was the best goalie in the regular season, was a first-team NHL All-Star during those 2 seasons. He had to retire because of an eye injury, so that's why he retired after 78-79. His jersey number 1 was retired by the Flyers in 79, and then he was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1984. So, I mean, he played, little over, 13 years. I mean, he was just, I mean, there were some good goalies in the 70s. If you talk about Jerry Cheevers also, who is still thankfully with us, and then Tony Esposito, who sadly passed away a few years ago. But I mean, they were really just like, he was just really just one of the best. I don't know. I know Parent was also before your time, but I don't know if you have any thoughts of his career or even his cards or anything.
Tim, sorry, my mic was muted.
That's weird. Okay. I was like, oh wow, Tim is for once. Tim is speechless. Yeah. What has science wrought? Nope, it was just a muted mic.
Yeah, sorry, technical difficulties. The phrase "only the Lord saves more than Bernie" is around for a reason. Philly fans said that for years. I mean, look, whether you were around when he played or not. Any hockey fan that likes to look at their cards and flip over the stats on the back can basically pull up just his 73-74 regular season stats. And that has to be one of the best half dozen goalie statistics probably in the history of the league right there. So you take that, you combine it with his 74 playoffs, and that's probably one of the most impressive total seasons end to end ever. And then he did it again in 75 during the playoffs. So, but I mean, just look at some of his record. I mean, they're crazy. And I mean, for 7 years, he was the best, if not one of the best. So, it's a shame for me being, I know I'm one of the older ones now, but being younger and not having gotten to see these guys play live, only being able to watch them on highlight videos or the old broadcasts of the games that sometimes the NHL Network or show, or obviously YouTube is a place we can go and view these, old games and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I don't imagine I would have been a fan being a Penguins fan, but you got to be able to appreciate greatness when you see it. Speaking of which, like the Eagles yesterday in the football game, they paid tribute, and the whole crowd, the whole place was chanting Bernie, Bernie, Bernie. They put his picture and his, like, the obituary thing up on the screen. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you see that a lot in sports when a player from one, a player who's athlete from a different sport, but from that same town, and then the other sport will mention that, and of course, the fans will, they'll applaud or do the moment of silence or whatever. But then sometimes you have somebody who's just like really transcendent, and I'm sure that like Philly fans, even if they're not necessarily hockey fans, they know how important Bernie Parent was to the success of the team. I mean, even Bobby Clark came out with the statement, and he just basically said he was the best goalie in the world for 2 years. I'm paraphrasing, but he said he was the best goalie for 2 years. And if we didn't have Bernie, we would not have had two cups. And that's what the captain of the Broad Street Bullies thought, that he was just like a vital piece of the team, yeah, I mean, I had the honor of interviewing Mr. Parent a couple of years ago at the Sport Card Expo, the Fall Sport Card Expo, and I'll post a link to that interview. And it was just such a nice talk. I mean, very nice man, not really like, he wasn't like joking around a lot. I mean, but, he had, he was just very upbeat, very nice. I mean, I asked him about, what was it like to play with Jacques Plante? He was your hero. And then you got to play together on the Toronto Maple Leafs. And, he said, it was a dream come true. But he said that really evolved his game. That really that's kind of like, that was like the turning point in his career. Look at that, like 71, 72, end of 70, 71, 71, 72. He plays with Jacques Plante, 72, 73. He goes to the Blazers, and then in the World Hockey Association, and then he comes back to the NHL, wins back-to-back cups. So, I mean, that elevated his game. And speaking of game, the other thing I want to talk about is, and those of you who are watching the video of this, you could see it, but I'll describe it to those of you listening to the podcast. There was an Atari 2600 game back in the late 70s called Video Olympics. It was just basically like 50 different versions of Pong. So maybe it was like one Pong and one Pong paddle here and one Pong paddle there, or maybe the sides each had 2 Pong paddles, or maybe they each had 4 Pong paddles, but same idea. But they would call one soccer, and they'd call another one hockey, and they'd call another one handball. But it was more or less the same game with just different variations. And so anyways, on the box cover, there's like a montage of different athletes. There's a soccer goalie making a save. There's like a basketball player. I can't tell, maybe a volleyball player. I'm just looking at the artwork. And then there is front and center, very prominently, there is a hockey goaltender. White mask, orange jersey with white on the sleeves, brown pads, wooden goalie stick. And I mean, if you looked at this and thought it was from the 80s, you might say, that's Pelle Lindbergh. But the game actually came out in 78, which means that they were probably working on the artwork for it in 77. And if you were an artist and you were looking to model, use a reference photo, who would you use? You would use the best goalie in the world at that time as your reference photo. So I think it's just kind of cool that Bernie Parent unofficially appears on the cover of Video Olympics. I mean, I don't think you could refute that point. I know you're not going to, but I'm just saying, I think it's pretty irrefutable, especially if you take a look at like one of his hockey cards where he's wearing, like one of his later cards, from like the 2000s where he's shown wearing his mask.
Yeah, I'm certainly not going to refute that, especially when you look at the time frame, because I think anybody, like you said, that's Pelle Lindbergh. Oh, wait, no, this was made before him. So who else could it be?
Yeah.
It's too close to resemble it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's definitely not Wayne Stevenson.
Interesting thing, and you kind of brought it up about him going to the WHA. They were talking about it on NHL radio this morning. That whole thing was like, I knew he went to the WHA. I just didn't know why. And just like many other players at that time that kind of got pulled over in the WHA, obviously it was a contract dispute. He was on Toronto, and Harold Ballard was a cheapskate, didn't want to pay anybody. Supposedly, like the rumor was that this was only over $2,000. Like they were $2,000 apart on their contract. And so rather than give into it, he left and signed with the
Blazers.
What were they called? The Miami Screaming Eagles?
Oh, yes. The Miami Screaming Eagles for all of what, one day?
Yeah. And he signed like a 5-year, $700,000 contract that he got a house and a boat and a car and a bunch of stuff was all included in there. And then he put on the jersey. They took a promo photo and they never played a game. And because they didn't have anywhere to play. And so they moved him to Philadelphia and called him the Blazers. And that was that. It's like, wow, that's like a crazy story.
So he was the only player in Miami Screaming Eagles franchise history before they relocated.
Yeah, and they were talking about there's like one photo of him wearing a Screaming Eagles jersey out there somewhere. I couldn't find it. I tried to find it.
I need to see this photo so I can make into a custom hockey card because that would just be awesome. I love.
Yeah, I couldn't find it. Like I've seen the 72-73 Blazers like team photo card.
Mm-hmm.
But and he's obviously wearing a Blazers jersey, but the I don't know. I'd like to see that because I don't know what that looks like. So.
Yeah, the Blazers had some pretty sweet jerseys. I mean, they were really bright orange and red. I mean, it was cool. But yeah, I mean, it was a big deal that guys like Bernie Parent and also like Bobby Hull, even Derek Sanderson, a lot of these players, Dave Keon, jumped ship. Frank Mahavlich, went to the WHA. I mean, it gave the league credibility. Even if they went for a season, it proved to other players, hey, this league is going to stick around. This is a viable option for us. So, yeah, that was.
All the great. It seemed like they had all the greats at one point.
Oh yeah, you had Howe and Hull and.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's just interesting that almost every single time it's about contract dispute, and that's how he came back to the NHL. He was unhappy and. Another contract dispute after the playoffs ended, and he didn't want to go back to Toronto. His wife didn't either because she hated it there. So they wanted to go back to Philly, and so that's how they garnered that trade. But,
one thing that was funny is when I interviewed him, and the stage manager signaling frantically to me to like end the conversation because it was about 10 minutes and he's like signaling, okay, end it. And so I'm like, all right, well, thank you for your time. And, and let's give a round of applause to Mr. Parent. And he's just like, can I just say one thing? And then he goes off into this diatribe about what's wrong with goaltending today. And it was funny. It was just kind of like he was very, that. You remember that. Yeah. And you could probably remember more than I do. Cause I'm trying to think now, but like, I was just asking, questions about his career and stuff like that. But he came
because you only have 10 minutes. How much can you cram into that 10 minutes? You want to ask him a million questions and you got to pick your best 3.
Well, yeah, not only that, but you don't want to be like, so let's get into a philosophical breakdown of goaltending today versus goaltending around the 70s. That's not an easy question. That's not the, hi, how you doing? That's where you start. Hi, how you doing? What do you remember about your first game? What was maybe one of the highlights of your career? Well, Stanley Cup, duh. So I don't think I asked that question. But, what's it like to play with your hero, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then it's just like he wanted to talk about goalies going down too early, and then they got no place to go. And I just thought that was really cool that he's just like, this is the problem with today's goaltending.
Like he wants to debate the differences between butterfly and hybrid.
Yeah.
Like right there. So you've got 30 seconds, ready, go.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, you didn't say, hey, kids, get off my lawn, but maybe, hey, kids, get out of my crease.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So mad respect for Mr. Parent. It was nice to meet him. And he will be missed, especially by the Flyers fans. He was still an active ambassador with was pretty active. I mean, up to 2 years ago, he was still doing shows.
Oh yeah, you couldn't drag him out of Philly.
Now, Ed Giacomin, another goaltender who mainly played for the New York Rangers, he also passed away. So Vezina Vezina. Giacomin played for 13 seasons, and he won the Vezina in 1971. So he played from 65-66 to 77-78. He was a first NHL All-Star 2 times. He was a second NHL All-Star 3 times. He led the NHL in shutouts 3 times. He led the NHL in wins 4 times. His jersey number was retired by the Rangers in 1989, his number 1, and he was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 87. But there was a stretch for like 5 years where he was either a first-team All-Star or a second-team All-Star. And then there was a stretch, I think 3 years in a row, he led the league in shutouts. And then like 4 times in a row, he led the league in wins. It was either 4 in a row or it was like 4 out of 5 seasons or something. I mean, these were pretty much back to back. I mean, if you look at like 67 to 72, I mean, he was either the best goalie in the league or the second best goalie in the league. And remember, at this point, there were 12, then 14, then 16 teams. So, well, at least 14 by 72. So, I mean, and then, each team had 2 goalies by then. So, I mean, he was like number 2 out of like 26, 28 different goaltenders. I mean, that's really awesome. But I don't remember too much about his career. I do remember he ended with the Red Wings. And one thing I remember, and again, I didn't see any of these old games other than clips here and there, but I remember when I got into hockey in 89, I went to the library and I checked out every book I could about hockey. I was like 14. And, libraries now are maybe a little bit better, but back then my library just didn't really have any books past 1980. Like, I think the most recent book we had was from like 82 or 84. So I would just check out every book I could on the subject. So I read a lot about the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. So that's why I had such a good foundation of like original 6 knowledge. I could go toe to toe with people my parents' age about hockey stuff from like the 60s and the 70s because I read all the books I could, and that was all the books I could find. And I remember one book told about Giacomin's first time coming back to Madison Square Garden when he was with the Red Wings. And I wish I remember more about this story, but I do remember that the fans just gave him a standing ovation. They chanted his name. They chanted his name all throughout the game, like when he made saves and stuff like that. So, I mean, it wasn't like he was traded and it was like, boo, you're on the other team. And actually, I think he went on waivers. So it wasn't like, I mean, when it's a fan favorite player like that and someone who's a Hall of Famer and, was such a great goalie for the team. I mean, the fans loved him and they remembered him and they cheered for him, even though he was in a Red Wings sweater. So I just always remembered that story about him and just about how popular and how beloved he was among the Rangers fans. And it's too bad that Clemente couldn't be here with us today to give his opinion on this.
It's funny that he was such a beloved Ranger when, if you go back in his career and look at how it started, they almost gave up on him. So, like, Emil the Cat Francis, like, he wasn't sure. Like, he didn't think he was going to cut it, and he made sure he had NHL top caliber guys, like, just off to the side, waiting to go, just in case. And then, he got demoted for a little bit there in the beginning, but then after that, cleaned up his game, and that was it. Look, I've watched videos of him. Again, another guy well before my time, but I've watched videos from him, and going further back from that, it's harder to get because a lot of the stuff wasn't filmed. But honestly, in that time frame, like mid to late 60s and even early 70s, you didn't really see goaltenders like coming out of their crease too much and skating around and playing the puck and all that kind of stuff. He's one of the first that I've seen from that time frame, like actually going out there and challenging to be part of the play and being a puck playing goaltender. I think maybe that's one of the reasons why kind of fans latched onto that because that was something that they hadn't seen before. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
No, that's a good point. When you bring something new to the game, it's exciting, it's different, and and then other goalies will copy that. Yeah.
But between him and Rod Gilbert at that time, I mean, those were two of the biggest fan-backed Rangers probably ever.
One thing that always threw me off about Giacomin when I was looking at all my hockey cards of his from like the 70s is that he always had like gray hair. Like he looked older than he was. Like I'd look at the card and I go, wow, this guy has like gray hair and he must be old. And then I flip it over and I'm like, oh, he's 27, or he was 27 when this photo was taken. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Just he always looked older than he was.
Yeah, absolutely. His 65-66 rookie card.
Yeah.
He's 26 years old on that card and he had gray hair. So like guys were built different back then. You look at so many cards of players from the 60s and 70s, and you look at these guys and you're just like, how old is this guy? Like, I think of what older people looked like when I was a kid, when I was super young, and they mostly looked like my grandparents.
Right.
And many of these guys that are in the primes of their NHL careers at the time looked like my grandparents did to me when I was younger.
Well,
so I was just like, what is happening? People were built different then. They just were.
And also life expectancy was shorter and people used to smoke a lot more and drink a lot more. I'm not saying that any of the players we're talking about today were necessarily
smoking
smokers
for sure,
or drinkers.
Weathered your skin to be like a piece of
like leather, like
blocker leather.
Tough as the goalie pads that you're wearing. Yeah.
Yeah, that picture of Giacomin right there, his pads, like his skin complexion is just like his pads.
Right, yeah. I mean, I was reading a book, I think it was Mike Keenan's autobiography, and he was talking about when he took over the Blackhawks as coach in '88, and he said, the first thing I did was I had him remove all the ashtrays from the locker room. And I'm like, ashtrays? And it's just like, because the players would smoke in between periods, or they'd smoke after practice. That was just like their thing, and then he just said, you can't smoke and be an athlete, and so he made it harder for them to smoke. But yeah, I mean, that was a thing in like the 60s and the 70s,
I mean, I've talked about it on the show before. Mario Lemieux used to go and puff on a cigarette in the tunnel in between shifts. So
he did give that up, right? Or did he smoke through his whole career?
I don't know when he gave it up.
I thought he switched to Snickers bars by the late 80s.
He may have.
You never saw those the Snickers commercials that he did?
His smoking habit's probably as bad as Gretzky's drinking a Coke in the locker room before the game habit.
Oh, well, I don't think there's anything wrong with the Coke.
That was old Coke. That was before the new Coke, and then they changed the formula.
Oh, yeah. No, total conspiracy. Yeah, they get rid of Coke, bring out Coke, new Coke, and then bring back Coke. Original Coke is Coke Classic, but then you replace the sugar with high fructose corn syrup so you can basically increase your profit margin. And then,
This is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, I know. Why can't people just have sugar?
See, I'm almost 50 and I look like I'm not a day older than 22. Ed Giacomin's 26 and he looks like he's 58.
So now I want to talk about Bob Goodenow, who was perhaps to hockey fans best known as the executive director of the National Hockey League Players Association. So he passed away right around the same time as Giacomin. So Goodenow was a college hockey player. He played for Harvard, where he studied law. So that dude's right off the bat, he's smart, right? Studying law at Harvard. I mean, that is like a cliche almost, isn't it? Like, when you think of a law school, you think of Harvard, right? So, and he was the team captain his senior year. And he was signed as a free agent by the Washington Capitals. So what's interesting is that he never had any cards because he played college hockey in the 70s. Wasn't anybody making college hockey cards in the 70s. Then he played in the minors for 2 years. Minor league hockey card team sets were far and few between in the 70s. So he didn't get any cards as a minor league player. However, in 2004-2005, Goodenow was included in Upper Deck's Young Gun subset because that year there was no season. So they kind of went to the well and they were like, who are people in hockey who don't have a hockey card? And they made like a hockey card of Cammy Granato, and they made a hockey card of Gary Thorne, and they made a hockey card of help me out here, Tim. Who's Hobie Baker, and they made one of
Hobie Baker's in there. I can't even remember who half of them were.
But they're like all of these people who were like involved in hockey or one way or another. Either as a player or, just somebody who was like just important to the game. I mean, another one, not to bring him up again, but Mike Keenan, because Mike Keenan never really had a hockey card. I mean, he was omitted from the 90-91 Pro set that had all the other coaches. So Upper Deck made a card of him in its Young Gun subset for 04-05. And Bob Goodenow, pictured with the Washington Capitals, has a card, which I think is really freaking cool because most people, if they bought it, who the heck is this guy? Oh, he's an flip it over, read the back. Oh, he's an executive director. At the time, he was still currently the executive director of the Players Association. But to a geek like me and like you who really get into that whole historical aspect of hockey, you're like, wow, this guy has a hockey card. How freaking cool is that?
Well, it's also ironic that they finally made one just out of another work stoppage.
Yeah.
And that's who they decided to give one to.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because after that work stoppage, he was no longer the executive director. So he was the NHLPA executive director from 1992 to 2005. And during that span, players' salaries, free agency, licensing, and likeness rights vastly improved during his tenure. So one of the first things he did as PA, the head of the PA, was he basically, like, the players went on strike in April of 1992. I mean, they voted on it, but that was one of the first things that happened under his direction. They went on a 10-day strike. And one of the things they wanted more revenue from hockey cards. So that's kind of cool. Like now, okay, so he was helping the players get more revenue for hockey cards or from hockey cards. And he ends up on a hockey card, almost 15 years later. And then also control over like their likeness rights and their name rights and stuff for video games. I mean, you think about like EA hockey games, they were in their infancy back then, right? In fact, like, when the players, the licensing used to be controlled by Time Warner for the NHL and the NHLPA, but really by the NHL. So a lot of times somebody would come and say, we want to license this, we want to license the league and the players. And the NHL would be like, oh, yeah, sure, you could use our logos and pay us money, but you can't use the players. So then the players wouldn't get money, right? So that was part of the problem. So things got better under Goodenow. Then you think about like free agency. I mean, didn't guys have to be like 102 years old before they could be free agents and sign with other teams back in the day? It was like 32, 30. No, it was like 33, 35. I mean, I remember when John Tonelli signed with the Blackhawks, and I thought he was like 100 years old back then. Like you were pretty much stuck with the same team, until you were like, I don't know, 35. And then it was like, okay, good luck getting a contract. You've spent your entire career playing for the St. Louis Blues in the 1980s and haven't seen past round 2 of the playoffs. You know what I mean? So, now we have where like players can, they sign, that entry-level deal, that bridge deal, we call it now, to get them to the unrestricted free agent status, So all of this happened under Goodenow. So that's, that's why he was so significant to the sport of hockey and the growth of hockey in the NHL.
He's also one of the reasons why the NHL players get to play in the Olympics too.
Really?
Because he lobbied pretty hardcore for that.
Oh, that's awesome.
But more or less, I mean, depends on what side of the story you believe. He kind of used the Olympic participation as a bargaining chip in other negotiations, but I mean, nevertheless, I mean, the guy was a lawyer, and he was a lawyer through and through. And you hear people tell stories about him, and he was a lawyer on and off the ice, so to speak, whether he was negotiating something or just sitting there in a like non-business environment. He was still kind of the same way. But that's the thing. He, not being an easy guy, that's what the NHLPA needed at that time, because they were being walked all over. So they had to do something. And he was the perfect guy for the job. Look, you can't cut it as a player, but you still want to be a player. Now you can represent the players, be a player agent, be a player attorney, run the Players Association. So that's what he did. And, the fact that you have kind of this guy on that side, and you have Gary Bettman, who came in to take over the league, and now Goodenow passes away. And the statement came out from Gary Bettman over his passing, and I kind of found it somewhat ironically humorous, I guess.
Do you have the statement?
Yeah.
Yeah, want to read it to us?
So he said, and this was in quotes from the NHL, so it's clearly what he wrote or was told to write. Said the National Hockey League mourns the passing of Bob Goodenow, a hockey man to his core, who was a captain of the team at Harvard and played professionally in the IHL before serving as a player agent and executive director of the NHL Players Association for 14 years. So get the history out of the way first. Then he says, Bob was a skilled attorney and tenacious advocate for the players he represented as an agent and as the head of the Players Association. We send our deepest condolences to his wife, Wendy, their 3 children, and his many friends and admirers throughout hockey. And I expected after that to be in parentheses, except me. Because it's kind of like you have to write your condolences to your mortal enemy. So I'm sad that the guy that was my opponent in every negotiation for years and years passed away. I'm sure, I mean, I'm making light of that, but you know what I'm saying. It's like, right, this is the guy you had to go to battle with almost every single time. And it's like, if you think about it, everything that the players got in most of those negotiations was positively moved forward, basically up until 2005. 2005, I think you can kind of definitively say, just by looking at the background, yeah, it worked out a little bit for both sides, but more than anything else, the person that won that, hands down, was Bettman and the NHL.
Oh, with the salary cap especially.
Yeah, in 2005, if that would have went more for the players that time around, like it had in the years past, you would not see Gary still in charge. I guarantee it. He would have been gone. So that was like full on job security for him at that point in time. And also, it's ironically when Bob Goodenow was no longer representing the players after that, pretty much. So,
well, I mean, he was ousted after the 2004-2005 lockout. So just to walk it back and just give a little bit of history. So in the 70s and 80s, so you had Alan Eagleson, who was the first head, I believe. I mean, he was pretty much the founder of the NHL Players Association. So Alan Eagleson, and then you had John Ziegler was the NHL president, I believe, from 74 to 92. I think he started in 74. That sounds about right. Ziegler. Yeah, I think he's. But anyway,
Ziegler was the president of the NHL.
Yes.
Not the Players Association.
No. But what I'm getting at is Ziegler and Alan Eagleson, who was the head of the Players Association, they were buddy-buddy. They were like this. They were colluding with each other. So actually, who was pretty much controlling the league? It was Alan Eagleson, the head of the Players Association, John Ziegler, the president of the NHL, and Bill Wirtz, who was the owner of the Chicago Blackhawks and the NHL chairman of the board, right? So those three kind of had they kind of had a really tight grip on things. And then you started to see that fall apart in the early 90s when the players started questioning about their pension and they found out that, Eagleson was a crook, right? So Goodenow succeeds Eagleson, right? And then they go on a 10-day strike. And one of the things, they want more revenue from hockey cards. They want better likeness rights for things like posters and video games and stuff like that, because the players were being shut out of these opportunities because the NHL wanted to keep the players poor. Oh, well, you're not making any money off of T-shirts and starting lineup action figures, but we'll give you a 3% raise, right? Because that's the only other money you're going to get is your salary and not like endorsement deals. I mean, of course, if you're Wayne Gretzky, you're going to get the endorsement deals no matter what. But think about like NBA players at that time and then equivalent NHL players at that time. If you say Brett Hull is as good in hockey as this basketball player was in the NBA, but, obviously the NBA player makes tons more in endorsements. So the long-winded point that I'm trying to get to is you had Eagleson get ousted, Goodenow takes over the Players Association, players go on strike. That leads to Ziegler basically getting fired and replaced, by Gil Stein for like a season as interim NHL president. And then, that gave them time to do a proper search. And then they found Gary Bettman, right? So in a way, Goodenow's hiring led to Ziegler ultimately getting fired. And then, and then the players, getting more revenue opportunities, better free agency, higher salaries, and so forth up until the 04-05 season. The other thing I'll point out too really quick is, there were 3 work stoppages under Bob Goodenow. I don't know if the 04-05 one was really that good for the players, but the one in 94-95 was definitely better for the players because one thing they did was they reduced the season by a couple of games. I think it was 84 games. It went down to 82 games. Players, again, had better control over their likeness rights. So that actually continued that. And then you started to get more hockey card sets because those of you who've listened to this show a lot probably remember that there were a couple of seasons where card companies could only make 2 sets of hockey cards. Hockey players were like, well, look at baseball. There's like 16 different baseball sets. Topps puts out Stadium Club and Topps and Bowman and all these different brands, and they put out cards that cost $5 a pack. Why can't we do that? And that was one of the other things that came out from the 94-95 work stoppage. Whew, okay, I'm going to tap out and let you say something while I sip some Gatorade.
I was just going to add to, like, you brought up Eagleson and how he was doing shady stuff. Not only shady stuff, he was doing criminal stuff.
Yeah.
Remember,
okay.
As soon as he got ousted, he was arrested and brought up on fraud charges.
Mm-hmm.
I think he actually fessed up to like 3 of them and had to pay like $1 million fine and spent some time in jail too.
Yeah.
So
Eagleson
it was a little lighter. It was a little more severe than just shady stuff.
Well, embezzlement, collusion.
Yeah.
A
lot of issues with that. But I mean, when you have, not that I'm backing this up or condoning it by any means, but I mean, you're talking, that was early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, coming out of an organization that for years, owners colluded with team representatives and agents and things like that. And there really wasn't a whole lot of, there weren't checks and balances. Let's put it that way. There weren't checks and balances.
Yeah.
The league protected the owners and the owners protected their bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
And some say it's still like that, but there's a little more oversight now.
And not to change the subject, but one thing to change the subject, but one thing that kind of brought more scrutiny to Eagleson was you had more players coming out of college from into the NHL in like the 80s, right? We think about like the 70s where you started getting guys like Craig Patrick and Keith Magnuson and, of course, Ken Dryden coming out of college and playing pro hockey. But then by the 80s, you had more college educated players who are saying, hey, where's this pension money? Where's the money going? We give a portion of our salaries, and, you know, where's our return on this investment? You know what I mean? Like, is it getting invested, right? So they started asking all these questions that, you know, the players in the 70s probably wouldn't have asked, because they wouldn't have known, because they wouldn't have had the business acumen. So, yeah, a little bit of a deep dive there in NHL history. Sorry about that, folks.
I mean, we could honestly talk about the work stoppages like all day long, because they're pretty fascinating as far as what caused them and what went into them and what came out of them.
Yeah,
like every single time.
Yeah, that's that we should definitely revisit that idea. All right, so couple weeks back, somebody suggested, or not suggested, they asked. They said, have you got... No, they didn't demand. They didn't request. They just asked. They said, have you guys ever done an episode about 1980-81 Topps? And I said no, because I hate that set. But then I thought, well, that would be a fun podcast to do, about a set of hockey cards that I don't like. Because, I mean, if you know, you can only do Pro Set and Upper Deck so many times, right? Especially from the 90s. But to go back to 80-81, so this is before I started collecting, although I did buy an 80-81 Topps hockey card set with some graduation money that I got when I graduated 8th grade. Just to give a little bit of a rundown before we take a deeper dive.
For graduating 8th grade?
Yeah, got 8th grade graduation money. From the relatives, you know. I mean, my grandma got me a subscription to the Hockey News, and I think to Inside Hockey, and I think she also bought me Hockey the Lighter Side on VHS, if you remember that being promoted during the games in the late 80s.
We lived in different worlds.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't have graduation until I was a senior in high school. That was the only graduation I had. Yeah,
I got so my 8th grade graduation money, and this was like when I got into hockey cards, like early 89. And then like I had a friend who's like, hey, I got this catalog. It might've been Larry Fritsch cards. I don't know. It was just one of those like mail order. And I remember buying like a complete 84-85 hockey set for like $6.95, and like a complete 78-79 hockey set for like $9.95. And then I bought the full 80-81 set, and I don't remember what I paid for it. It was probably
those
like
Larry Fritsch ads. Those were ripe with complete sets back in the day.
Yes. So it had to be that, but there wasn't an ad. It was like an actual catalog that like one of my schoolmates just said, here, you can have this catalog. And I remember just going through it and like, wow, I could buy a whole set of hockey cards from 5 years ago, and here's a set from 9 years ago. Oh my God, right? Like, that's such a long time. When you're 14 years old, 9 years is more than half a lifetime ago.
I remember seeing the ads for them in the Tough Stuff.
Yeah.
There were those, and then there was the ones where they would have like dealer lots, they would call them. It would be like 190, 91 score Lindros cards, or you know, whatever. It's like, who the heck's buying 100 of these?
Yeah,
that's why they called them dealer lots.
What the hell am I going to do with the 100 Brett Hull second year cards?
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, so just some of the facts about these sets before we get into a deeper dive of the design and the player selection and whatnot. So you had 80-81 Topps Hockey, had 264 cards plus 16 team pin-up posters. And an 80-81 O-Pee-Chee Hockey had 396 cards. So it had 132 more cards. In 80-81, Topps Hockey, a wax pack had 10 cards, one team pinup poster, one stick of bubble gum, and it cost $0.25. A box had 36 packs. On the other hand, you had O-Pee-Chee, also 10 cards per pack, one stick of bubble gum, no insert, 20 cents for a pack, and a box had 48 packs. So the O-Pee-Chee they usually had less cards and more packs, but these 2 years, they both had 10 cards. All right, so first I gotta address the elephant in the room by comparing these cards.
You're talking about me?
Huh?
Are you talking about me?
No.
Because I did lose a little bit of weight.
You lost quite a bit of weight, my friend. You're being modest.
Oh,
you're gonna have to order more Puck Junk t-shirts in your size, because the ones that you're wearing are just a little too baggy for you. Unless that's the look you're going for.
Well, this isn't one of them. This is my old Panini Player of the Day shirt.
Oh, how did you get that?
Because I kept doing the contests back in the day when they had them. Where you had to go into your store every week, your local card shop, and you do the little scratch off things, and you had to buy something and you get the cards or whatever. Yeah.
Nice.
And I won the t-shirt.
So what I'm going to refer to as the elephant is the fact that the Topps hockey cards had a black scratch off area on the front of the card that you would need to remove with a coin, like it was a lottery ticket. As I like to say, it's like if a lottery ticket and a hockey card had an ugly baby, it would be 80-81 Topps, because most of the cards have a scratch off area on the front. Now, the player cards just have a little puck shaped area where the player's name is, and you'd scratch it off and you'd see who the player was. The O-Pee-Chee version didn't have that scratch off area, thankfully. It just had it just had their name in the puck area. So, on the Topps card, you can almost, like, if you remove the puck on the front of the Topps card, it almost looks like the O-Pee-Chee version, more or less, except that the O-Pee-Chee version will have the player position in English and French. So, I mean, at first glance, you might look and say, oh, is that the Topps or it's the O-Pee-Chee version because it says center in English and in French, or, oh, that's the Topps version. It's just been, the puck has just been scratched off of it, or the scratch off area has been removed. Back of the cards, you got a couple of bullet points. O-Pee-Chee, well, we'll talk more about the back in a minute, but, O-Pee-Chee was printed on a brighter cardstock. I actually think the front of the cards, I think the Topps card fronts look a little better. Like, the colors to me seem a little bit darker, but then I think the O-Pee-Chee cards look better because on the back, because there's more contrast between the text and the, the background. Although they printed green on green, which is just hideous. It's like, have fun reading with that. Have fun reading that. So, yes. So getting back to the fronts for just a second. So you got a player photo framed by an intercolor border. You got a team name and diagonal at the bottom. You have a name obscured by a freaking scratch off area on the Topps card, but not on the O-Pee-Chee cards. And then you have the position on the edge of the puck. So the front, it's not a bad design. I just hate that scratch off. And they actually made a big deal about it on the sell sheet for 1980 Topps hockey. This is where, like, hockey was kind of running out of steam for Topps, because they did the scratch off stuff in 80-81. They went to regional regional player selections in 81-82, where, like, if you bought a pack in Los Angeles, it would have different cards than if you bought a pack in, say, New York, right? Because they had an East version and a West version. And then Topps didn't even bother making hockey cards in 82, 83, 83, 84. So they were trying to do whatever would stick. And so they really thought this would stick, right? Because the sell sheet says action, excitement, and now, ... mystery. And then it says here, new coin rub off quiz on every card. Guess who the team player is. And then bonus, 5x7 team pinup in every pack. The sell sheet is kind of interesting because it pictures a Guy Lafleur card that doesn't actually exist. I guess that was just their kind of mock-up of what the design was going to look like. But they ended up using a different photo on Lafleur's card. And then what's interesting is that a wholesale cost was $108 for a 20-box case, or $5.40 per box. So basically, if you bought a box, or if you sold them at 25 cents a pack, you'd make $9. So you were basically doubling your money, or almost doubling your money, or maybe less than doubling your money. I don't know. It wasn't a very high markup back then. It was basically you were buying the packs at like 13, 14 cents each and selling them for a quarter.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. You know what? Let me just, go ahead.
I like my favorite thing about that advertising
Mm-hmm.
is they specifically say that this is a coin rub off.
Mm-hmm.
Can't use anything else other than a coin. It's only designed to be rubbed off with a coin. Have you ever taken any of these recently and tried to rub the black off with a coin?
Maybe 10 years ago, but not recently.
Unless it's a quarter with a serrated edge.
Dimes,
I guess
too.
it's not serrated, but whatever you call it.
Yeah.
A little, the edge like it is.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not coming off.
Right.
And on most of those cards, that black is now permanent if you never scratched it.
I want to show and talk about like what the Topps cards look like with and without the puck. So those of you watching the video, you could see, but those of you who are listening to this podcast, so basically like a lot of the times you can't remove all of the black. So like over the player's name, you're still going to get a little bit of remnants of that black. Like Tim said, that kind of got absorbed into the card, or maybe it got rubbed into the card, but it doesn't look clean like the O-Pee-Chee version where the player name, the puck where the player name is clean. You can't completely remove all of that scratch off surface. And then it's even worse on cards like league leaders or team goal leaders, where like the lower, what is that, like maybe 25% of the card? Or is that like almost a third of the card? I think that's like a third of the card is just covered in black scratch off material, so that they could say stuff like, who led the team on goals and assists and points. And it's just an eyesore. I mean, which of these looks better to you, Tim?
Well, if we're just using the examples on the screen, the parole card on the right looks better than the one on the left.
The one where his name is revealed.
Yes. However, when we're talking about that, I assume that's a Mike Gartner card.
Yep.
I like the one on the left better.
Mm-hmm.
Because the one on the right looks like a royal mess.
It looks like a
mess. So much black on it because you can't get it all off, and it's never all going to come off.
These are cards from my collection, by the way. And before I scanned those cards, I wrote a blog post about these some time ago. I'll link to them or link to it. But I tried to clean up that card as nice as I could, and that was as good as I could get on that leader's card. I mean, it was just like you still like have like some discoloration where like,
yeah, if anybody's going to be meticulous about cleaning it, it's going to be you. And if that's as best you could do, that's what's happening. That is literally what's happening. And look, what is the world we live in now? We live in this world where everybody grades everything.
Yep.
For no apparent reason, they just grade all of it. Can you imagine somebody making a set like this? People would lose their freaking minds if Topps or another manufacturer came out with a set that was all like this. And they're like, oh, it would be fun? Here, go and damage this card and then see what you get at a grade.
So I got to talk about this a little bit now. There's a joke that women get therapy and men start podcasts because that's our therapy. So this is my therapy about 80-81 Topps and how this set just, as soon as I got it, I was like, it annoyed the hell out of me. So I get this complete set of cards. It's summer of 89. I'm 14 years old. I'm so excited. Can't wait to put these cards in pages, right? I get them. I look, I go, what's this black stuff? And then I look and I keep looking and I go, wait, what? Like, it didn't make sense to me. Well, I had bought an old price guide. I didn't mean to buy an old price guide. The card shop owner was like, would you like a price guide that shows you the prices of what these are worth? And I'm like, yeah. Well, he sold me one from like 87. So it didn't have anything past early 87. It was the Beckett football, basketball, and hockey collector when all of those could just fit in one volume. And it went up to 86, 87. So I'm reading up on the 80-81 Topps set, and it just said player names are obscured by a black scratch-off area that could be removed with a coin. It didn't say if the cards are worth less or more if you scratched it off. So then I thought about it and I said, well, if I scratch these cards, I could see who they are supposed to be. Because I didn't know a lot of these guys. Of course, I knew which one was Gretzky, and I knew which one was, maybe certain, of course, I knew who Tony Esposito was. But then, like other ones, I didn't know a lot of these guys, and a lot of them had retired by then. And I just looked, and I'm just like, so do I scratch the names off or scratch the puck, the black area off, or do I leave them as is? And I decided to leave them as is because I was still kind of stupid enough that I would like take a duplicate card and like tape it to my notebook. And then later on be like, okay, I could have done something better with that Brett Hall rookie than tape it to my notebook, even though it was a duplicate. You know what I mean? It's a double. Sure. I'll just like make a book cover with these different doubles of my cards. But I was smart enough to not scratch the cards. And what I ended up doing was I ended up putting them all in pages. And then, those little like rectangular stickers that you get for like garage sales where you write in the prices?
Yeah.
I literally wrote every single player name on a little white sticker that was about the size of the puck, but rectangular. And I stuck that on the 9-pocket page. And I did that for all the cards, referred to the checklist to see who was who. And then for like the team leaders and the league leaders and stuff, I used like a white mailing label that was like maybe, 2 inches by an inch or whatever. And then I wrote all that information or whatever it was supposed to be and stuck that on the page. Because I guess I have issues because I still wanted to know who they were, but I didn't want to scratch my cards. And there was no Hockey DB back then. And I wasn't going to refer to a price guide every time I wanted to know, hey, who's card number 168 or 80 or 49 or whatever. So, yeah, that's my trauma with the 80-81 Topps hockey card set.
I mean, it would be everybody's trauma. As a kid buying these, and unless you knew what the players looked like for sure, you'd have no idea. Unless you had the numbers memorized or what the players' faces looked like. I mean, how many people know what goalies look like? There was no internet back then. You had newspapers, you had magazines, you had TV. That's pretty much it. So unless you went and saw these people in person, so then over half the goalie cards in this set are just the goalie skating around with a towel around their neck. The only reason why it's the goalie is because they're wearing all the extra pads.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have to just guess, well, that must be whoever the main goalie is for whatever team that was. But here's the thing. So you don't want to scratch them. You want to put them in the binder. You're going to leave them unscratched, and you're going to put a little sticker and say, hey, this is Gilbert Perreault. This is the leader's card for Mike Gartner. Okay, fine. You can do that to your personal collection. Cool. Lots of people are going to scratch these. But again, I go back to now we live in this world where everything has to be graded and slabbed and pristine and whatever in order to get the best value or whatever for your card. Is scratched and unscratched no different than one another? I would say they're absolutely different from one another.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because, I mean, look. Now, years ago, this was a while back, PSA came out and said that they were going to essentially treat the scratch-off area on any of these cards that they got as kind of like it's part of the card. So They're not going to downgrade the card for having the box scratched off. However, what they would downgrade for was the fact that if the scratching left any visible damage to the card. And it's practically impossible to scratch that off without damaging the card. Because you're going to put indentations, you're going to put surface scratches, you're going to leave residue behind. It's going to be a million different things that are going to cause quote unquote damage to the card. But here's the thing. To me, mint means mint. Mint has never changed. The definition of mint to me when I started collecting versus now is no different. It's the way the card came from the factory. Basically, it's untouched. You take it out of the pack, you put it in a sleeve. That's mint to me. Now, I understand that pack fresh doesn't mean mint anymore. But if these were intended to be scratched, but you leave the black part on it, that's how it came out of the pack.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it was manufactured. That's how it came out of the pack. You have to leave the black on it. I think you have to.
Yeah, no, I mean,
if you want it unscratched, buy the O-Pee-Chee.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
That's really all I could say. Because, I mean, anything like, look, there's different degrees of it too. Because let's take, for example, let's look at that Gartner card. The one that's not scratched, it's still kind of scratched.
Yeah, scuffed up from.
It's impossible to keep these completely black. And I have seen copies that are as black as night with like no marks, no nothing. And I will swear, I can't prove it, but I will swear that people took a Sharpie over top of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've never seen one. I mean, this Gilbert Perot, you can even see there's like little streaks in it, right? Like they didn't get a really good solid black area on it. It was just kind of like whatever they could.
Like I've been building this set for too long. Let's put it that way. Like way too long. I've been putting this set together by hand. I could have bought it a long time ago full, but what's the fun in that? So I've been building this by hand forever. I'm down to needing 2 cards, right? But I'm building it unscratched. And not only am I building it unscratched, but I'm trying to get the best unscratched versions I can of all of the cards. So I have these in a binder.
Can't wait to see that.
Yeah, I have them in a binder, and I'm just trying to like, you know, when I see these, I'll go in my list and I'll be like, well, I know the 2 cards I need, but when I see ones that are like really good examples, I buy them and then I go to my set and I just swap them out.
Well, Tim, I got
what's in there and switch it out.
I got to break it to you, though. I don't know if you know this or not, but the checklists actually don't have any black on them. So if you're looking for checklists with black on them, they don't exist. I mean, like just a regular checklist, like the one
I know that
through 132 and 133 through 264.
I'm aware of that. That isn't one of the ones I need. I need 182 and 250. Those are the only 2 I have left.
So, 250 is Gretzky, 182. So I thought my guess was going to be Bork, but who's the other one that you need then?
Nope, it's also Gretzky. It's the team leader card.
Oh, okay, yeah. Good luck with that one. So
those are the only 2 I need.
The card backs don't have the name on the back. And that's also true with the O-Pee-Chee version, because O-Pee-Chee just kind of did what Topps did, but then maybe like added more cards and maybe put now with Kings, now with Oilers or whatever on the front. But so looking at the back of this Wayne Gretzky card, you can see that it doesn't have his name anywhere. Doesn't refer to him in the bullet points, just says was Oilers leading scorer in 1979-80 and established all sorts of Edmonton club records, possessed with incredible instincts and fine athletic ability, right? So it's got like the name, the team name, not the player name, the team name, position, vitals, complete career statistics. They actually couldn't include WHA stats with the NHL stats. They just say major totals. They don't separate them like they did in later years where the NHL is like, no, that doesn't count, you know. But it's looking at this Gretzky card here. It's interesting because it basically puts together his NHL and his WHA stats. So like 1 year of NHL and 1 year of WHA, you know. So shoot, in 139 career games between 2 leagues over 2 years, he has 247 points. Just crazy.
Oh, so that's Gretzky. Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't guess.
We couldn't figure it out by was Oilers leading scorer?
No.
Oh.
I had no clue.
Yeah, and then the little there's got a little cartoon on the back, but it has nothing to do with the player. And I think this was the last year for little cartoons. I don't know if they carried over. They weren't on 81, 82s. Yeah, I think this was the last year for little cartoons on the back, unfortunately. which is sad. So, because I like
they should bring that back.
They should, Okay, so obviously there were, a lot of player cards, but then there were some subsets, which is interesting because think back a couple of weeks ago, we did our 88-89 Setrospective, and there was really no subsets. But back in the early 80s, we still had record breaker cards. There were 5 different record breaker cards, including the Philadelphia Flyers going on a 35-game unbeaten streak. 35 games without a loss. Crazy. And then as you could see, the Topps version and the O-Pee-Chee version. So the Topps version just has the text in English. The O-Pee-Chee version has English and French, but then also, they don't have that black scratch off area. How mint would you say this one is, Tim? Not so. Would this one make your binder? Probably not.
I mean, if I didn't have something else to put in it, it would. Yeah, that's not too bad. I've seen way worse intact, but not intact.
Right.
Like somebody didn't try to scratch it, yet it's still mostly scratched.
I mean, that could have just been scuffed by the card that was on top of it in the pack or in the set.
I imagine that's usually the case because if you look at the scratches on a lot of these, they're vertical scratches.
Yeah. So you just feel
people are holding the cards in their hands and they're going like this. So they're scratching upward as they're flipping through cards, or you slide them in a page and they get scratched. I mean, so.
Yeah. Then you had 12 all-star cards that were first team and second team all-stars. And yeah, they still put the name in a black scratch off puck. I always liked the Wayne Gretzky card. Kind of, to me, it thought he was like sucking his thumb. He's got his glove on, but I'm just like, what is Wayne doing there?
He's certainly hungry.
Yeah,
for goals.
Yeah, hungry for goals. Oh, maybe he hit a Snickers bar in his glove and he's eating it between plays.
It could be.
Or one of those hot dogs from, huh?
Did they have Snickers bars back then?
I'm sure they did.
I don't remember when Snickers were invented.
Or maybe one of those hot dogs from Lake Holisay that everybody talks about. Maybe that's what he's holding in his glove.
There you go.
Could this picture be in the Lake Holisay in Quebec? I don't know. Maybe. We'll just pretend it is. I like my version of the story better.
That works.
Wayne is hiding a hot dog in his glove and he's taking a bite between play. Okay. Then the team goal leader cards. So the player picture.
That's a good unscratched version.
Is that good? It still looks terrible. Oh no, the one on the right is the O-Pee-Chee version.
No, I'm saying that's a good unscratched.
Version. But you could still see a lot of the stuff.
It's not too bad. There's a couple dots here and there, but still pretty decent.
Yeah. So these goal leader or these team leader cards, I should say. I say goal leaders because the guy who's pictured is the goal leader. But then it also lists out the assist leader, power play goal leader, and game-winning goal leader. So looking at Phil Esposito here, and he seems a little indignant that there's just so much nonsense at the bottom of his Topps card, like all this black stuff that needs to be scratched off, so that you can read that he's the goal leader for the team and also the power play goal leader and the game-winning goal leader. Go figure. Backside has got a checklist, which I think is kind of nice. I kind of like those checklist cards. Like, that's one thing I liked about the Topps baseball card sets is that they had a manager card, and then on the back it was a team checklist. And I always thought that was really cool, and I'd love to see something like, well, I like team checklists, even if it's just a logo on the front. It doesn't have to be the coach.
O-Pee-Chee did that for a while with an insert.
But it wasn't a coach.
No,
it was a logo. You're talking about
like the team logo, and then they would put the team checklist on the back.
Yeah, the modern O-Pee-Chee
individually.
Yeah, I think those are great. I agree with that.
I guess I shouldn't have said O-Pee-Chee did it. Upper Deck did it with O-Pee-Chee.
Yeah, Upper Deck, O-Pee-Chee by Upper Deck. Yes. Then we got the league leader cards. There were 8 of them, and they had big scratch off areas. Covering up the player names, although, I look at this and obviously I know who these guys are. Well, now I do, and back then I knew, but yeah.
Oh, that's scoring leaders. I thought that was scoring L doctors.
L Doctor.
Yes.
L Doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, they really went overboard with this black stuff. Oh, but they did not do it on the playoff and the playoff cards. So there's like a conference final card, another conference final card, and then a Stanley Cup final card. So there were 3 different playoff cards. They didn't bother putting the black scratchy stuff over where it said Stanley Cup final. I guess
because it was too hard to make the black into a circle shape.
Oh, but they did with the pucks. So, but yeah, okay, I gotcha. Well, but the thing though is that like this wasn't really identifying a player. All the other cards were obscuring player names.
That's true.
Yeah, so because it was guess the player, that was their shtick for 80-81. Guess the player, right? So, yeah, I mean that's fine.
They could have done that with this one, right?
They could have. I'm kind of glad they didn't, but then again, I kind of hate the fact that they did it to begin with. So yeah. So I want to talk about some of the best rookie cards. So some of the best ones. So obviously the first 264 cards are the same, Topps and O-Pee-Chee. So I want to talk about some of the ones that are in both sets. So I mean, you got Michel Goulet, who's like considered like one of the best left wingers. Maybe Luc Robitaille, but Goulet definitely one of the best left wingers in NHL history and in the 80s. You got Ray Bourque, one of the best defensemen. They both have rookie cards in the Topps and O-Pee-Chee sets. I'm surprised you got Bourque. I thought that would be one of the final ones you needed. But Gretzky and Gretzky makes sense.
Oh, no. Ray Bourque is so underappreciated in the hobby. You can buy that card for a couple bucks if that.
I know.
It's so cheap. It's ridiculous.
It is, yeah. And I have 2 of them that one is scratched. I have one in my own collection in my set. I think I have another one somewhere. And then I have a couple that I put out for sale at a show. And I have a scratched and unscratched. And they're neither as expensive. Obviously, the unscratched one is a little more expensive, but nobody wants them. You know what? And you know what's funny is that I had a Michel Goulet rookie card. And it was like $10. Nobody wanted it until he was signing at a Chicago Sports Spectacular. And then some guy came up. He's like, "Do you have Michel Goulet rookie card?" Of course, I'm the right guy to ask that question to because I was like, "Of course I do." You know what I mean? Like I have one. And
You're
so
like,
he was.
Yes, scratched, unscratched, or partially scratched. Which would you like?
Would you like one that's been folded in half? Would you like one with or without a wax stain on the front?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
This one I took a bite out of earlier. Would you like that one? Half price.
Yeah, pretty much. He matches my teeth marks identically. Yeah. Mike Gartner, another Hall of Famer, has a rookie card in the Topps and O-Pee-Chee version. And talk about another underrated player. I mean, I think that's the thing is that there's some really good rookie cards in this set, but most of these guys now, there's one player I'm saving for later because he only has a rookie card in the O-Pee-Chee version. But Gartner. Then a couple of like 80s guys I wanted to just highlight. Mike Liut, who was
but look at that Mike Liut one. That's like perfect black right there.
Ooh, yeah. Well, a little scuff really up here at the top, but yeah.
That's probably the best one yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just think it's a cool looking card. I mean, it's an action photo that looks like there's a Capital player falling forward in front of a little bit above the crease. So maybe he got knocked down by a defenseman, and Liut's got that cool old goalie mask, the Jason style mask, but it's got the little bit longer of a chin on it. I like
that Northland stick because I had one just like it.
Oh yeah, nice. So yeah, Liut was a decent 80. He's one of the better goalies of the 80s. I threw an Al Secord, card number 129, because he was really good as a Blackhawk. He was the second Blackhawk to hit 50 goals after Bobby Hull. Like Bobby Hull did it, and nobody did it until Secord did in the 80s. And you would think maybe Dennis Savard scored 50 goals in a season, or maybe Steve Larmer, but no, it was Al Secord. Then Tony McKegney also has a rookie card in the set, and McKegney is the first Black NHLer to stick around for a while. You had Black NHL players before him, but they were gone maybe, after a few games or after a season. And McKegney played, I think he played until 90, 91. I know he's on a bunch of 91, 92 cards, but I think he was playing in Italy by then. So, yeah, so McKegney, I mean, a significant player. I mean, good player. I think he had a 40-goal season once or twice. I mean, he was a very solid player. Mike Foligno, who played a long time in the league, has a rookie card. No one's going to be like beating down the doors to get a Mike Foligno rookie card. I'm just pointing these out because these are like just good, solid 80s players that I just wanted to point out. And then, of course, Rick Vaive.
Down the door to get his son's cards either.
Huh? No, I know. Yeah, either of his sons. Sons, plural.
Yeah.
Plural possessive. And then Rick Vaive, which was immortalized as one of the it's been immortalized in the hockey card, the Bad Hockey Card Hall of Fame, brought to you by Puck Junk. But then I also made a trading card commemorating this trading card as one of the worst hockey cards of all time.
I was looking back here to see if it was up there, but I don't have Series 3 in there yet.
You don't? Oh yeah, you gotta get another frame.
I gotta get a bigger frame.
Gonna need a bigger frame, yes. What's interesting about the Rick Vaive card is if you take a coin and you scratch where his hair is, you'll actually reveal the Canucks helmet.
I wish that was true.
No,
I wish that was true.
I mean, that hair.
It'd be amazing if that was true.
This is like the weirdest looking photo. I mean, no disrespect to Rick Vaive, but this card, they painted hair on him. My theory is that he was in a Canucks jersey and a Canucks helmet, because you look at his face and he's got really rosy cheeks, and then you look at how low his hair is going. Damn, I wish I had some of that hair, some of that Rick Vaive hair. But it's like they were trying to cover up something. But he looks like he had facial reconstructive surgery, doesn't he?
Yeah, it doesn't really even look like him except for the eyes, nose, and mouth. The rest of it's messed up.
Yeah, it's really messed up. And then you have the jersey is kind of painted all crooked, and then the hair, which just goes every which way. And it's just his hair is like an inch above his eyebrows. Just weird. It's just weird. I don't know, man. Yeah, that's a messed up card. But he was a good 80s player. I think he hit 50 goals for the Maple Leafs. He was their team captain. Then he overslept and missed a practice, and they stripped him of his captaincy. And then they ended up trading him to the Blackhawks. And he was decent with the Blackhawks for a while. So, yeah, it's a fun one. Now, O-Pee-Chee only rookie cards. Got to start with Mark Messier. Okay, Mark Messier's only rookie card is an O-Pee-Chee. Does not have a Topps rookie card. It's so weird that he didn't really have a Topps card until 84, 85 as an all-star, and not until 86, 87 as just a regular player card. So Messier, one of the greatest players of all time, totally omitted an 80, 81 Topps, but he's an O-Pee-Chee, as he should be, because, he was a highly touted, he's a good player for them. I mean, even before, he was good enough that he played I think he was underage when he played in the WHA. Because then he had to go back, if I remember correctly, he had to go back into the draft. But anyways, Mark Messier, and another Hall of Famer who has a rookie card only in the O-Pee-Chee version, Rob Langway.
Another underrated, underappreciated hobby Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
This is Rob Langway.
And one of the last guys to not wear a helmet in the league. So, yeah, Rob Langway.
Defensemen don't get much love.
No.
They just really don't.
Pete Peters, another goalie who had a rookie card in O-Pee-Chee, 80-81 O-Pee-Chee. I like his name because his name is Peter Peters. If you use the full version.
Name so nice they gave it to him twice.
Yep. So nice they named him twice. And then Lindy Ruff, who, he had like a 10-ish year career. I think it was like 10 or 11 years, but then he had like a way longer coaching career. I mean, people today probably know Lindy Ruff as a coach, but yeah, he was a player in the 80s, or they know that Twitter the Lindy Ruff's tie Twitter profile. Has
I
like,
don't know if I'm familiar with that one.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay. There was also another Twitter profile for Joel Quenneville's mustache. And
I
then Lindy
remember
Ruff's.
that one.
You remember Quenneville's mustache? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Maybe the Lindy Ruff tie isn't that popular of one. I'm not sure. But anyway, so Lindy Ruff, Brad Marsh, another player who was one of the last players to play without a helmet. And I like this card. Obviously, they airbrushed off the Atlanta Flames logo on the front. We'll talk more about that in a minute. I got more to say about that. But this card just throws him for a loop because he has such long, beautiful, not like long hair, but he has such like thick, curly hair. I remember the Brad Marsh of the 90s that had the receding hairline. You know what I'm talking about? Like when he was with the Flyers and then when he was with the Senators on their first team.
Those are the ones that mostly you would remember.
Yeah. So seeing him with all this like I keep saying long hair, but this like thick, perfect head of hair, and funny, when I interviewed him for that story about the last players to not wear a helmet. And I said to him, I said, "What, how come you didn't wear a helmet?" And he goes, I grew up watching the Maple Leafs and none of those guys wore helmets. So I didn't want to wear one either. And that was his answer. You know what I mean? Like, that the players that I grew up watching didn't wear helmets. So, he's like, it wasn't
by today's standards, some would argue he's currently wearing a helmet on that card.
Yes. And then John Ogrodnik, another player only in the O-Pee-Chee set. I only mention Ogrodnik because he was like a good player on bad teams. He was like the best player on the Red Wings until Steve Yzerman came along and really took off as like one of the top players in the NHL. I mean, I think he was a second NHL All-Star once or twice. He was a good player on the Red Wings and a good player on the Rangers. And he, was on the All-Star team. But no one, his rookie card's probably $1 instead of a quarter. Or maybe it's just a quarter instead of a dime. I don't know.
Guys may not have been like the best goal scorer or the best point producer. But when you have a career that spans over 900 games in the NHL, you're doing something right.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially with him, he had over 900 games and over 800 points.
I know, right?
So, players like that don't get, especially in the hobby, they don't get any love. But other than with basic fan bases, I mean, you look at casual hockey fans, they're going to be like, who?
Right.
They would have no idea who that is.
Yeah. I mean, I remember him with the Rangers a little bit. All right. So, obviously in 1980, so halfway between the 79-80 season, you had the Winter Olympics. You had Team USA win. They did their miracle on ice by beating the Soviet Union. And then they, 2 days later, they won the gold medal. Topps and O-Pee-Chee had an interesting way of acknowledging players from the Olympic team that then went into the NHL. So there were 7 guys that made the jump, after the Olympics. They went to the NHL right away. And so then they ended up on 80-81 cards, which I thought was really cool. And they put a USA logo on them. And this is on both the Topps version and the O-Pee-Chee versions. And then even the back of the cards, a lot of them mention that the player played on the 1980 Olympic team that won the gold medal. So we got Ken Morrow of the Islanders, Jim Craig, who by then had been traded to the Bruins. He made his NHL debut with the Atlanta Flames, but then he got traded to the Bruins. So unfortunately, they had to paint a shoddy-looking jersey on him. His hair looks fab, though. I wonder if that's his real hair or if they painted over a goalie mask that was flipped upwards. I'm not sure.
It looks like one of those old-timey hats that Italian explorers wore when they came to conquer North America.
Oh, jeez. You got Mark Johnson, Steve Kristoff, Mike Ramsey, Dave Christian, and Rob McClanahan. So these 7 players made the jump from the Olympics to the NHL, and then they had rookie cards in 80-81. and they had the little USA logo on them. And I thought that was really cool. I thought that was cool because you never really see a lot of that thing. I mean, you might see a mention of the player might be like the first team NHL All-Star, second NHL team All-Star, or something like that. But when Topps or O-Pee-Chee did something like that to just kind of call out something about the player, like, again, to go back to the baseball cards, when they did that like little trophy that said like Topps all rookie team or first round draft pick or whatever, I always thought those things were cool. And I thought these cards were cool for that reason.
Well, them acknowledging Olympic participation. I mean, I don't know that I necessarily remember that in a regular set. It wasn't part of something else.
No,
and
I don't remember.
You would expect the O-Pee-Chee set, being that it's mostly Canadian, they would have Team Canada card, but no, they went with the Team USA ones also, which I think was a good touch because, I mean, they won the gold medal and Miracle on Ice, and everybody was talking about it because it was due.
I mean, I would think that, I remember like Canadian people telling me, yeah, we watched that game too because it was a big deal, Like,
I mean, here we are 45 years later,
yep.
and we're still talking about it.
Yeah.
And we will continue to talk about it because it was so impactful. Yes.
So I think that was cool. So yeah, so they had cards in the set that acknowledged USA hockey. But then you also had a little bit of a kerfluffle with the Atlanta Flames moving to Calgary to become the Calgary Flames. So Topps and O-Pee-Chee kind of dealt with this in their own separate ways. So with Topps, what they did was they purposely picked cards that just used head and shoulder shots. So you wouldn't see an annoying logo. So they wouldn't so they wouldn't have to deal with the Atlanta Flames logo. They just cropped them tight. So they did they would just do head and shoulder shots, really close-up shots. The O-Pee-Chee version, the O-Pee-Chee, the guys that were only in the O-Pee-Chee version of the set, like Willie Plett, they airbrushed the logo. So you see a lot of these guys in just like red shirts that are blank. I'm assuming they didn't know what the Calgary Flames logo looked like yet, so they didn't bother trying to draw one because they didn't know what it would have looked like, I guess, when they produced the cards, maybe. I don't know.
But the interesting thing is, it's not that like they wrote Calgary Flames on the front. They just wrote Flames. And in Atlanta, they were the Flames.
Yep.
So they wouldn't be lying if they would left the logo.
Yeah.
And it was still NHL licensed.
Right.
It's not like somebody else now had the license for the Atlanta Flames logo.
I mean, is the world a better place because they updated Rick Vive's card so that the photo has him as a Maple Leaf, or they had just been better off leaving the photo alone and then just putting now with Maple Leafs?
I mean, look at I think I brought it up before. Look at the Bobby Lalonde card. It says now with the Bruins, and it has him hunched over, but they didn't airbrush that one. You could see the Atlanta Flames logo on his jersey on that one.
I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't like, it's just.
But it's a Boston card. It says Boston on the bottom. So they were like, oh, we don't have to airbrush this. It's a Boston card.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I think that like they would sometimes go a little too far in trying to update the cards, and it was more harm than good. But, we like to make fun of these things, 30, 40, 50 years later. So it's not all bad, right? I mean, if it gives
had to be a directive from somebody. Like the NHL had to have stepped in and been like, yeah, don't put this logo on any of your stuff.
I mean, I know they did that with like baseball cards. They would update, they'd airbrush them. I don't know. Football cards, probably. I don't remember seeing that too much in football. I mean, I'm sure someone can find, 24 examples. Just me not being a football collector, I can't really.
Well, 80-81, Topps didn't have the NFL license.
Yeah, and same in 90. In 90, I think they had like a lot of helmetless shots.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting little factoid about Kent Nilsson here, the Magic Man. So Nilsson, he played in the NHL, I think, till 86, 87, or 87, 88, somewhere around there. Like, he played in Europe for a bunch of years. He came back to the Oilers for, I think, 6 games in 95, 96. Why that is interesting is because when he made that short NHL comeback in 95-96, he was the last active former Atlanta Flames player in the NHL.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of interesting because a lot of the guys that played for the Atlanta Flames, I mean, up until 1980, I mean, they retired before then. So yeah, by him coming back for those few games, last active Atlanta Flames player.
Strangely enough, I remember him as a North Star.
Oh, yeah. Uncorrected error cards of note. So there's quite a few errors, some wrong photos or wrong birth dates or wrong names or not wrong names. Well, yeah, actually, we'll just get to that right away. So Topps and O-Pee-Chee number 220, Peter McNabb is spelled Nicknab. It's a Nicknab, paddywhack, give the frog a bone. So that's kind of just funny. But what's really funny is Doug Riseborough's card. I misspelled his name on this. But anyways, Doug Riseborough, his O-Pee-Chee card actually pictures Serge Savard. But you know what's funny about Doug Riseborough's rookie card? You'll know this once I tell you. You'll be like, oh, yeah.
What's funny about it, other than being the wrong person?
It's also the wrong person. It's Bob Gainey. So 2 times, okay, Doug Riseborough had a decent NHL career, but he was no all-star. He was no Hall of Famer. But on one card, they put Bob Gainey on his card. And on another one of his cards, they put Serge Savard on his card. I mean, ouch. You know what I mean? Like, oh, wait, that's not you?
The most unmemorable hockey cards are cards that you aren't even on that belong to you. Yeah,
right, exactly. Like
not quite fairish level of being almost off of your own card.
Yeah,
but these are completely off of your card.
There's an 81-82 O-Pee-Chee card of Dave Parish, and he's barely on his card. His face is he's like in the penalty box. Or no, he's on the bench, I think, and he's just kind of leaning a little bit over the boards, and you just see a little bit of his face. It's such a weird card. Then we got a couple of oddities here where we have a card of Greg Shepard of the Penguins. He's in a Penguins jersey. It says Penguins at the bottom of the card in red letters, but then they got a little bit of text on it that says, now with Penguins. Like,
yeah, because he used to do it with the all capitalized Penguins, and now he's with the capitalized P lowercase Penguins.
Penguins, right. Yeah. And then Pierre Plante, same thing, says now with Nordiques, even though he's in a Nordiques jersey, and the bottom of the card says Nordiques. So I can't figure this out. Like, they just, like, it doesn't even make, like, it's like the correction that didn't need to happen, right? So, I mean, it's not necessarily an error. It says now with Penguins, and that's true. He is with the Penguins. And Plant, even though he retired in 80-81, I mean, it is true. He was with the Nordiques. So,
the whole point of putting the now with is to show that, hey, they're not necessarily with this team that they're pictured as. They're now on this other team.
Yeah. And by the way, that's the other thing that set off my collecting OCD in the 80s. One was that this 80-81 top set with the scratch off areas. The other one is when a card said, now with this team, and he's pictured with one team, but then it says now with another team. And I'm like, okay, does that count as part of my team set? If I sort my cards by team, do I put this card with this? He's pictured with this team, but it says he's with this other team. So where do I file this card? Where do I put it in a 9-pocket page? Until like I just build the sets, and now it doesn't really matter so much. But
if you were doing that, what is your rule of thumb?
I don't know. When I started collecting sports cards, it was with 85 Topps baseball. And there was a player named Davey Lopes who got traded to the Cubs. He's in an A's jersey. It's an A's card. Like, he's in that A's uniform, but it has 3 little words on it, now with Cubs. And I used to put my cards in a photo album. Remember those photo albums with the magnetic pages?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know what to do. So what I ended up doing was I ended up putting my Cubs on one page and my A's on another page. And then I put his card as close to the middle as possible. So it was like next to the Cubs cards. But this is
Cubs adjacent.
Yes, exactly. But then that annoyed me because I wanted to put my Cubs and Sox on opposite pages, and I couldn't do that anymore. And of course, I was 10 years old, so this is 10-year-old logic, and I didn't understand the whole National League, American League thing. And as an adult, I realized that Davey Lopes is actually on the Cubs checklist, so he is a Cubs card.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I treat it for my team collections, because I do probably more with team collections than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And if the card belongs to the team, that's who it goes with. I don't care how they're pictured.
Right, yeah. Okay, we got an awful airbrush alert. There's a couple of them in this set, obviously Rick Vive being one of them. But this one of Don Murdoch, card number 203 in the Topps and O-Pee-Chee set, is funny for two reasons. Well, first of all, it's bad. Like, it's so bad that the player even looks like he realizes that he's like, am I in a bad hockey card? Oh, damn. Is Al going to blog about this in, 30 years after this card is printed? Oh, damn, right? But what annoys me about this card is not only did they paint an Oilers jersey on him, they painted the wrong Oilers jersey on him, because the version of the logo that they used on Don Murdoch's card, somebody made a choice to paint a logo on him that was wrong. That's the 78-79 logo, which they stopped using that orange, having the word Oilers in orange. They stopped doing that in their last year of the WHA. That was the last time they did that. When they joined the NHL in 79, they went to a blue logo with Oilers in blue. So, yeah, just stupid. That, let's use a logo that's old, and out of date by 2 years.
Yeah, also, where did he get that beaver pelt hat he's wearing?
I don't know. It just needs the squirrel tail, from the back, right? Or beaver tail.
I'm pretty sure it's there.
Yeah. Definitely looks like a David Bowie kind of hat. Not David Bowie, Davy Crockett.
Davy Crockett. Daniel Boone.
Daniel Boone, David Bowie. Oh, God.
Daniel Crockett Bowie.
There you go. Thank you. Yes. So, yeah, that's pretty bad. And then O-Pee-Chee had this really confusing card. So, of course, at least the player's name, oh my God, could you imagine if the player's name was covered up? I guess it wouldn't really matter. So it's a card of a player named Richard Mulhern, who's a defenseman. So I guess that's a clue, defense, right? But what we have here is we have an Atlanta Flame with his logo painted over, but you could still kind of see the logo because it's like they didn't use strong enough paint, because you could still see a little bit of the outline of the A, so they didn't really do a good job of airbrushing it out. This is actually how the card looks, by the way. And then there's a Bruins player. So there's a Bruins player in the front, there's a Flames player in the back, and then at the bottom it says Maple Leafs, and then right above that it says Now with Maple Leafs. And you look at this and you go, whose card is this? Is it the guy
in the... who Richard Mulhern is? You have no idea.
I have no idea who he is because, like I said, this guy played before my time, right? So I don't know who it is, but, he's not, if he was in a Maple Leafs jersey, we know who it is. But, and it turns out, so then I thought, okay, maybe it's the guy in the front. Because the guy in the front is in the front, right? So he has more prominence in this photograph. But it's actually the guy behind him who's being obscured by the guy in the front. That's his card. That's Richard Mulhern. And I only know this because on the back of the card, it shows that he played 3 years with the Flames. Flames. Then he went to the Kings. Then he went to the Maple Leafs.
So then that adds the whole other dimension of how freaking lazy are you that you can't come up with a card of this guy.
A photo.
Not newer than 4 years ago.
Yeah, because it's using a photo from 78-79, and here we are in 80-81. And between 78-79, he started the season with the Flames, then he went to the Kings, and then he started
50 games for the Kings in between there, plus another 20 some on the Maple Leafs.
Yep. They couldn't find a photo of him as a Maple Leaf. It's like,
or a King. Heck, might as well just put him in a Tulsa jersey.
Tulsa, yeah, that would have been that would have made sense. I don't know. Yeah, it's just a confusing
That's a train
card.
wreck of a card.
It is. It is. That's a great way of putting it. It's a train wreck of a card because you don't know whose card it is. By the way, if anybody ever has any other examples of these sorts of things, I'd love to write about them because I think it's funny when you see a card of somebody and you're like, wait, is it his card or this other person's card? And it's kind of ambiguous. I think those are always kind of fun. Okay, so Topps put one insert per pack, and they were these 5x7 team pinup posters that were folded. So they were folded in quarters. So they all have little creases on them no matter what. Yeah, and so this definitely leaves something to be desired. I mean, they're team photos from the 79-80 season. What's it called? Or actually, let me think. The Islanders won in 80, 81, 82, 83. So this says 79-8. Yeah, so they won in 79-80. So then this was probably taken at the end of the 79-80 season after they won the cup. I chose to show this one because it showed the Islanders with the cup. But what's weird about this poster set is that Topps didn't bother making any posters of the Oilers, the Nordiques, or the Jets. They're just like, screw those Canadian former WHA teams. Who the hell wants a little Wayne Gretzky, on a poster, right? Or, an Edmonton Oilers 1980 picture, So no Oilers, no Nordiques, no Jets, no Calgary Flames, because I guess they didn't want to, have to, they could have just put Flames. I guess they'd have to airbrush out all their logos.
Yeah, it would look like a red blob of card.
Just a red blob, just be like a big red blob. And then you pointed this out to me. I actually overlooked that fact. So thank you for checking me before I wrecked me. Check yourself before you wreck yourself, as they say. There's no Penguins in this set.
Nope.
Were they just that bad in 79-80 that they didn't even bother to take a team photo? Were they trying to sell the team? What the hell was going on with the Penguins that year?
The Penguins were bad for a long time, like a really long time. Very few playoff appearances and just a team in constant rebuilding mode.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they finished that season leading into that, but I'm pretty positive they weren't a playoff team.
That was the Rick Kehoe era by then? Or was he on the team by then?
Trying to think when Kehoe's first year. Well, yeah, I think I think so.
Not. All right, yeah. So So anyway, they folded these team photos to fit into packs. They measure 5x7. They only did 16 teams. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, they skipped 5 teams. Kind of annoying, but whatever. I remember used to be able to find these pretty cheap. I don't know if they're still inexpensive. I'm talking about the team poster set, but I think it's definitely a fun little addendum. Like if you have the top set, that you get the team poster. Oh, you know what the best thing about these posters is?
The best thing about them?
Yeah.
That they're too big and they don't fit in 9-pocket page.
No, but they fit in 2-pocket 5x7 pages.
They do.
Yeah, there's a page. Remember, there's an app for that. There's a page for that, right?
Yeah, there's
4x6. There's a page for that. 5x7. There's a page for that.
I think I need to get some of those because I have mine in 9 pockets, so they're not folded.
You mean they're folded?
They're folded, so you have to kind of guess what they are.
Right.
I wasn't smart enough like you. I didn't put stickers on them to tell me which one's which.
Oh, no. Well, no, what I did with the team photos, though, what I was going to say, the best thing is they don't have any black scratch-off area.
Well, that's true.
Guess the team, right? Islanders is covered up, but they're all wearing Islanders jerseys.
But if you leave them folded, I guess you still have to guess. Like me.
Yeah, you have to guess before you unfold it, right? Yeah. Anyway, my final thoughts. I don't like the top set for the reasons that I mentioned in great detail. I do like the O-Pee-Chee set just because it's a cleaner presentation, even though you got your rough cut borders and you have your bad centering and typical O-Pee-Chee problems. But, you know, you got a lot of rookie cards of a lot of Hall of Famers with Mark Messier, with Ray Bork, with Rod Langway, with Michel Goulet, with Mike Gartner. So right there, you got 5 Hall of Famers who have rookie cards in that set. And you got a second-year card of Gretzky. You got quite a few cards of Gretzky if you count his regular card, his all-star card, his team scoring leader card, and in the various NHL leader cards, he's in the set quite a bit. So it's a good set for Gretzky. I mean, especially if you look at 79-80, there's really no Gretzky's in that other than the rookie card, and really that's the only Gretzky you need. But then you get to 80-81, and there's like a bunch of Gretzky's. It's like Topps and O-Pee-Chee figured out very quickly, hey, we need to find more ways to include this guy. Although, to be fair, Topps did in the 70s, they did do a lot of like team scoring leaders and all-star cards and stuff like that. 79-80, I think, was just kind of more of an outlier because that was just such a weird year with the merger of the NHL and the WHA. But, you know, I like the O-Pee-Chee set, although I'm not super fond of the design. And the top set, I think I've said everything I can say about that.
There's 8, by the way. 8 Gretzky cards.
Really? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Because then there's like there's like what, goal leaders, assist leaders, point leaders. Yeah, stuff like that.
Scoring leaders is it?
Yep.
I think
Okay.
Is what it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a lot. Or maybe there's 7. I don't know. We'll go with the over under is like 6 to 7. How about that?
That's fine. So, you know, I was going to just say really quick. So I remember when I got my 80-81 top set, and like I said, that was summer of 89 when I was, you know, dropping mad loads of cash from my 8th grade graduation on complete sets of hockey cards, you know, like an 80-81 set for $20 or whatever. But the 80-81 O-Pee-Chee set, I remember when I bought that, and Tim, you might remember too. We were at a Chicago Sports Spectacular. This was way back in, like, I want to say it was like 2009 maybe, or 2010, like somewhere like around the time we started hanging out at shows. And there was this guy who was pulling around like this flatbed cart with just stacks and stacks of binders. Okay, we talk about people getting let in with bro cases now and selling cards. This guy literally was wheeling around a flatbed cart with stacks of binders on it. And he saw us with our hockey jerseys. And I think our friend Justin was with us. And yeah, he was with us. And he looked at us and he said, "Are you guys buying any hockey cards? I just bought a collection at an estate sale." And I'm like,
I remember this.
You remember this?
Now that you bring that up, I remember this.
And I said to the guy, I said, "What do you got?" He's like, "I got a complete 70, what was it? It was a 73, 74.
74, yeah.
Yup. And 80, wait, let me think. 73, 74, 74, 75, 80, 81, and 85, 86 with the Lemieux rookie. So you had 73, 74, 74, 75, 80, 81, and 85, 86. And he had all 4 of those sets complete. And I remember you.
Didn't he have like the 86 too, but he was missing the wah?
He might have. I don't remember now. That's an interesting question.
I feel like he did.
All I know, well, I remember the 3 of us went through the binders because I said I want to buy these sets, but I want to make sure that they're complete. And you guys sat there and you went through with them page by page because whoever put these sets in pages, they took all the star cards and they put them at the end.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they didn't put them in like with the other cards. They put them in at the end in like their own pages. So it was just a lot of like kind of going back and forth, like, oh, card number, whatever is missing. And then we'd like, you know, oh, okay, go to the back. Oh, okay, here it is, right? So I remember that because I literally just emptied, like I said to the guy, "I'm going to go to the ATM and take out as much money as I can." And then I like literally just like emptied my wallet. And I said, "This is all I can afford to pay. these are the 4 sets that I want. And the guy's like, can you do a little more? I said, this is all I got. What can you do this? And he like begrudgingly did it, which, was happy. That was like, that was like my big card show score. Like, I mean, especially now that I look at what the sets are worth and what I paid back then. I hate to talk about like what I paid for stuff, because I never want to seem like I'm bragging, like, oh, I just dropped $3,000 on a card or something, which I didn't, you know what I mean? But, like the people like to, they like to front or whatever. But I think I paid this guy like $700. It was just under $800. It was like $780. That was all between all the cash I had on me and as much cash as I could take out from the ATM that day. And so that was less than $200 a set. So I know you hate to build or you hate to buy sets. You'd rather build a set. But if somebody said, hey, you want an 85, 86 O-Pee-Chee set for $190, you'd be like, no, I'll just build it.
Oh, I haven't started the O-Pee-Chee ones yet, so
right.
To be seen.
Right. So what I'm saying though is that was like one of the best finds, because like the guy just brought them in. He wanted to sell them. He wanted to make some money back right away because he just spent all this money on cards. And I just said to myself, I said, okay, what could be better than buying these 4 sets at the same time for less than $200 each?
Yeah, I mean that's how you get it done.
Well, yeah, I mean,
you don't end up like me with a 37-mile long set checklist that you've been building forever.
Right.
Or like yours is probably 4 times the size as mine.
Yeah.
And it's done in one fell swoop, and it's already bindered too. So
yeah,
I'm sure you probably rebindered it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So any final thoughts before we wrap this one up? Because I think this has been a great show.
Look, I mean, it's a great set to have. It's, the first set of the 80s. You got a Topps and O-Pee-Chee version. You got to get everything. If you're going to be a completist when it comes to both of these, definitely go after them. The top set is pretty affordable. I mean, you pay a little bit more for the O-Pee-Chee set, but the top set, you can either build it or buy it for fairly cheap. The only cards that are going to cost you double digits are the Gretzky cards. Even though there's a Bork Hall of Fame rookie card in there, you can get that card for a few bucks. It's not going to put you out. And in the O-Pee-Chee set, really the big one is the Messier. So, but they're great sets. They're kind of iconic, whether it's for a good or a bad reason. Depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. And you know what? Folks, keep these suggestions coming, because this was fun. This made us think about something, or made me think about something that I wasn't really wanting to think about, the 80-81 top set, but I feel better for having talked about it and shared my feelings with the group.
Well, that's a wrap on 80-81 top scratch off.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening to the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast, or watching the Puck Junk Hockey Podcast. As always, if you've enjoyed the show, please be sure to like and subscribe. Please be sure to tell your friends. If you'd like to sponsor this podcast, you can do so by purchasing a t-shirt at shop.puckjunk.com. And until next time, collect what you like.